What is the best equipment for low handicap golfers? It's a question I get asked a lot. As I've tested out clubs from all brands this year, I think the best way to show you my favourites is to just show you what I've put in play. So let's take a look in my bag. It's a bit heavy, probably because I've actually got 16 clubs in at the moment, and that's because I have a couple that I switch in and out depending on the conditions. But first up, let's start at the top of the bag with driver. So this year I've got the Sim 2 Max driver in play, and I have loved the performance of this. I've actually got this in a lower loft than I'm used to, so I've gone down to a 9-degree head to bring that ball flight down, and this year I've got this with the KBS TD shaft. This is a new shaft that they've added into their lineup, and I'm loving the performance. I've gained like 20 yards with this from my previous gamer, which is obviously massive, but I've also found with the lower head and this shaft combination, I've brought my ball flight down a little bit, so it's been a little bit more controlled out on the course, and it's also been more consistent, and my fairways hit have gone up, so win-win in both situations there. Next up, fairway wood. We've probably just gone from the newest club in my bag to one of the oldest. Now this year I chose to stick with my Maverick 3 wood because I just loved the performance of it. And one of the things with a 3 wood is it's a really hard club to hit, especially when you get it down on the deck off the fairway. So having something that you're comfortable with is really important. Now I love this because I find it really easy to fly and get hang time on it. So if you're on one of those holes where you're a bit worried about having to carry bunkers or something like that, it's really comforting knowing that you're going to get that high and good ball flight on the shot. I also really love the quite classic small shaping of this, and it gives me a lot of confidence over the ball. Now, whether you're a long iron player or you prefer a hybrid, I've got options for you here. In the hybrids, these are probably what I use the most because I'm a bit shallower in my attack angle, so these really are more consistent for me in general. But I've got the Sim 2 Max hybrids here, and I just love the way these have performed this year. It's quite interesting because often lots of low handicap golfers don't necessarily love hybrids because they can find they go a bit left, but with these I don't find this at all, and they're just really consistent in terms of the flight, which is definitely important for me because I attack a lot of par 5s and long par 4s with these. I have these in a 3 and a 4 option, so a 19 and a 22 degree, and I have them both in the Fujikura Ventus Blue shaft, which has been really good for me so far. Now, if you're someone who prefers a driving iron, I think you're going to love these two options from Titleist. In the 3 iron, we've got the more forgiving U505, and this is just really good because it gives you such exceptional launch from such a long iron. That's really important for me because I don't necessarily have the steepest attack angle, so I can't necessarily launch it as much as I want with a long iron on my own, so getting that extra launch out of this is really crucial. Now it also gives you a really nice ball flight, but one of the big things is it's quite hot and gives you a really good distance. So especially for me, I like to pull this out on link style courses. When it's windy, I don't want a hybrid that's ballooning as high, and I want something that's controlled, but I know it's still going to get a good distance and it's going to get a lot of run out too. Now typically I do use this more off the tee just because it does have quite a bit of a wider sole, so when I drop down into the 4 iron I want something smaller and that's a little more controllable, and I can hit more off the fairways and have just a slightly nicer turf interaction. So for this I've actually dropped down to the T series iron, and it's the T200. I also have this in my 5 iron, so it fits in really nicely, but we can see I've got a different shaft in this. So I've got one of the graphite design options in here, and I just find that helps with my ball flight a little bit more, gets a little bit more penetrating, which is what you need in those clubs that you might use off the tee and off the fairway, and it also just makes it really good in the wind. It's also exceptionally long. I can get like 190 yards out of this club, which for me with a 4 iron is really long. Now a big positive for me with this is not only have you got that distance and control, but the feel and the looks are just so good. I also like the fact it's pretty small behind the golf ball and there's not too much offset. So irons. I kind of gave this away before, but I'm into the Titleist T series. So with my 5-iron, again, I've got the T200. I love that, but I've gone for a different shaft setup in my irons. So I've gone for the Aerotech steel fiber I-95, and I just love the way this shaft performs. As you can tell from the name, it's a steel fiber composite, which means it's airing more on that graphite side. I like it because I find with steel, to get the stiffness that I want in the shaft, it gets a bit too heavy. With these, I can still have that stiff shaft profile, but it's a little bit lighter, which is much better for my swing speed. So if you're someone who's around 95 or just over with your driver, it's a really good shaft to look into. I really love the stability of this, and I just feel like it gives me so much control of my ball flight and also directional control. In terms of the club head, from 6-iron down, I've gone into the T100S. I just love the way these perform, and I've gained like a good club in distance with these from my previous gamers. Now these look identical to the T100s, but they have 2 degrees stronger loft. That's quite important for me because I'm not the fastest or the tallest, but they give me quite a lot of extra distance. So in my fitting with these, with my 7-iron, I was getting 165 yards carry, which is definitely pretty impressive for such a small club head. Now also, these just give you exceptional feel. I love the looks over the ball. They're pretty small with not too much offset. And I just think for lots of low handicap golfers, these are a great option, or even dropping down to the T100 if you're someone who wants these looks, feel and control, but not necessarily need that extra distance. When it comes to wedges, it's pretty hard to beat a Vokey, which is why I've got 3 of them in my setup. I've gone for a 50, 54 and 58 because I feel like that's what gaps well down from my pitching wedge to give me kind of even distances coming down the back. Now I've got 3 different grind options in here, which is something I really recommend for low handicap golfers because it gives you more versatility around the greens. In the 50, I use this mainly for pitching and full shots, so I've gone for the F grind, which is more of a fuller sole and gives you more consistency on that. In my 54, I've gone for a D grind, which is a little smaller, so it gives me a little more versatility. Say if I'm in a bunker and I want to slightly open the face a little bit, or if I want to do the same while chipping around the greens. Now the 58 for me is the club I use the most around the greens, as you can probably see from the state of the club face. Now I like to manipulate this a lot, be it lowering the loft or opening the club face up and hitting a wide variety of shots. So for in this, I've actually gone for the M grind. It just gives me a little bit more versatility, the ability to really open the face up and not feel like it's going to bounce off the ground too much. And in this, I've also gone down to 8 degrees of bounce. Whereas in the 54 and the 50, I've got 12 degrees of bounce. And then my reasoning for that is bounce is going to help bring your ball flight down. With these, I don't want them launching too high, especially into the wind, because it's going to affect my carry distances. So having that extra bounce is going to bring that ball flight down a little bit, just to make those pitch shots more controlled. Finally, putter. Probably the club I've tweaked around with the most in recent years. And I was using the Scotty Cameron Phantom X12, which I loved, but then I went for a putting lesson and got told I couldn't aim the club face, which is obviously quite important. So I've gone for something new. I've now got the Spider X in play, and the reason for this is it has a really big long sight line across the top. I found this has really improved my ability to line up, which is obviously key because if you can't aim at the hole, what is the chance of you actually holing the putt? And I have seen my putting stats jump up quite significantly, especially in that 9-foot out range, because previously I was aiming like a good cup to the left of the hole, which is obviously not great. Now the thing I like about this for low handicap golfers is it is still fairly compact, but there is loads of stability packed into here, so it's really going to give you that extra forgiveness. We can see this has a single bend neck, so it really is more suited to someone who likes a face balanced putter and maybe doesn't have as big of an arcing stroke, so do consider that. I really love the feel of the face with this, and I feel like the Pure Roll insert is really good for distance control and has really helped me out this season. Now it wouldn't be a very good what's in the bag without showing you what golf ball I've got in play. So this year I'm using the Titleist Pro V1, and my reasoning for that is that compared to the X, I fly this a little bit lower. I have quite a high ball flight and I need to bring that down just to control it a bit more, especially into the wind. And I love this golf ball because I just find it to be so consistent, and I really love that soft touch and feel around the greens. I have been using this for a few years now, and I made the switch when they swapped the X and the Pro V profiles because I wanted something that launched a little bit lower. Now lastly, here's a few accessories that I couldn't be doing without. First up, my FootJoy glove. Second up, Ocean T pegs. These are so good because they're bamboo and they're good for the environment, but what I also love about them is you don't get those horrible marks on the bottom of your golf club from those painted T-pegs. Some other key things I use would be my soft spike, and this is used to line up the golf ball. So I put a cross on my golf ball so I can line up the direction I'm aiming and also my club face, and I find that really helps with putting and start line. I've also got a few training aids in here. These Paul Hurrian golf balls are really good for working on your roll because you can clearly see how well the golf ball's rolling, so I like to do that a little bit on the putting green. I've also got some ghost holes which you can use, say if you're practicing your putting and there isn't any holes available, or if you want to work on your pace putting, because you can roll it through these, know you've holed it, but also see how far past the putt would have gone. So they're a really valuable piece of kit. I've got all the usual spare laser batteries, Sharpies, pitch mark repairers, putting gates. They're also a really good tool. But probably one of the most valuable things I have in my bag is just a few warm-up bands so I can do my stretches on the first tee and get ready for the round. And since it's winter, you can't go out without a pair of mittens. Right, that's all for today. I hope that's answered some of your questions on what I think are some of the best clubs for low handicap golfers, and also it's satisfied those of you who have been nagging me for a what's in the bag for ages. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below or send me a line on Twitter or Instagram. And if you're after more golf content, head to the National Club Golfer social media channels for more.